What is the most unexplainable thing that ever happened to you? When I was around 15. My parents left me home alone for the weekend Friday night to Sunday later afternoon. And I was thinking, this is awesome. I can chill. Play games all weekend and eat what I want. Went to sleep Friday night. And then woke up to my mum waking me up to what I thought was the next morning. So I asked, "What happened? I thought you were going out the whole weekend." To which she replied, "What are you talking about? It's 4 p.m. Sunday. I have no idea what happened to those 2 days. I didn't leave the house. There was no food or washing up that had changed since they left. I hadn't looked at my phone. There were unread messages from Saturday morning. But I refused to believe I was asleep the whole time. This happened to me once. I went to bed Friday and woke up Sunday. All alone in my apartment. No drugs, no sleep deprivation. Just was a missed day. I was watching my parents' house while they were out of town. No dogs. Nobody in the house except me. One night was just cleaning up the kitchen after dinner, and I should note that the house is quite large and rather creepy when you've got it all to yourself. Their bedroom is directly above the kitchen, and I very distinctly heard footsteps start from the walk-in closet, go through the bathroom, into their bedroom and out into the hall. The squeaky board just outside their door made the squeak just as if somebody stepped on it. And that was silence. I grabbed the biggest knife out of the kitchen drawer and went to investigate. Nope. I was still totally alone. There is no way for anybody to access that part of the house without going past the kitchen and up the stairs first. I didn't sleep well at all that night and even get chills typing this. Not me, but my parents. In the place they used to live in, there was this old couch. My mom sometimes would walk by in the middle of the night and see a silhouette sitting there. She describes it as a man. Sitting down. With a hat on. Just sitting there. She saw it several times but thought nothing of it. Damn, she's brave, LMAO. She never told my dad, who one day said to her, "It's weird. But sometimes in the middle of the night I think I see a man sitting down on the couch doing nothing." So yeah. They both saw the same man sitting on this couch. And they told each other after they'd both seen it. Weird. Was hanging out with my friend while we were roommates. And something came up about ships in bottles. He insisted that I talked about ships in bottles frequently for several months before that point. But I honestly don't recall talking or even thinking about them really ever. His girlfriend even backed him up. I call it ship in a bottle syndrome. Were you a pothead at the time? One time with a group of friends I insisted we watch Fear and Loathing because I had never seen it. The whole group looked at me really annoyed and informed me that I had made them watch it 3 other times and I just never remembered. When my daughter was about 18 months old, her grandmother passed away. That evening, I put my daughter to bed as normal. But instead of going to sleep pretty quickly as she usually did, she spent over an hour giggling and squealing with laughter. When I went to check on her, she was staring at an empty chair in her room, laughing as if she was watching the funniest thing ever. This carried on every night until the day of her grandmother's funeral. Kind of similar. My grandmother and my brother would sit under the Christmas tree playing with the train decoration running around it. She passed a few weeks before Christmas when I was very young. After her funeral, every night, at different times after midnight when we had all gone upstairs to bed, the train would turn itself on and my mom would go down and turn it off. After a week, my mom exasperatedly yelled down the stairs, "Enough, Grandma's name. We miss you but we need sleep." The train stopped and never turned itself back on again. After that Christmas, my mom refused to put a train under the tree. We gave it to our uncle who was a train enthusiast. He never had it turn on by itself after all these years. For about a week before my apartment burned down, I dreamed every night about various houses burning down. I had a similar experience. In high school I kept having dreams where I was in a car with some friends. And suddenly we were spinning. Well, we ended up getting T-boned, causing the car to spin. It took me a while to realize that the dreams had stopped. Now anytime I have a car accident dream I get nervous. But luckily nothing else has happened. I had a similar experience. One time I dreamt that a boy got hit and killed by a train, and just a couple days later my cousin by adoption, who I wasn't close with at all, got hit and killed by a train. I didn't personally witness this. But at the time my family was sufficiently freaked out by it and it was talked about a lot. One morning, my autistic brother went into my parents' room at like 3 a.m. He woke them up to tell them that his grandmother was very old and was going to die. They got a call later that day that she indeed died in her sleep that night. But he's autistic and significantly disabled. So it's not like we could just ask him how he knew that or why he said it. He did a lot of other weird psychic speak over the years. But that was the spookiest one. One of my daughters did something similar at 3 years old. Her grandpa was in the hospital and I told her that we were going to visit him. This was a common occurrence because he had a rare but not life-threatening blood disorder and we always tried to visit to help him pass the time. She walked over to the window and stared out into the dark for a minute and then, all matter of fact, says we should hurry if you want to see him, pause like she was trying to think of the words way he is now. That spooked me enough to wake my husband and go early. And he died within 30 minutes of us getting there. When I was 12 I was constantly dreaming about a winning number on a school raffle. So I bought that number. And well, I won. My mom jokes that why I couldn't dream about more money, but at the time she was so scared because I kept telling her to buy that every day. I was so sure it was going to happen. It wasn't a feeling, it was some sort of energy. I started having a panic attack one night out of nowhere. I kept repeating something's wrong. I do have anxiety but had only had one other panic attack before this day. My husband sat on the bed with me and we tried to figure out what had triggered this. The only thing we could think of is that a family member of mine was going on a trip the next day and maybe that was making me nervous. So I made up a weird excuse to drop off coffee before they left super early the next morning. When I saw them, I felt fine. I immediately knew it wasn't connected. Wished them well. And drove home. About an hour later, I get a call that a person in my family on the other side of the country died by suicide the night before. Undefined. Edit undefined. My cousin died by suicide. Her husband died of an undiagnosed medical condition a year before. Both were gone in their early 30s. The night before she died I had a dream where my deceased grandma was at a family function at my deceased aunt's house. We were all in a room talking and laughing normally. I see my cousin and her husband on the grandma tells me that he's already with her. But my cousin's coming too. I woke up and told my husband I was worried about my cousin but wrote it off as a dream. I found out she killed herself around the same time I had my dream. My grandma used to say dream of the dead. Hear from the living, which to her meant that if you dreamed of the dead you were about to get news about the death of someone. Would give me the spooks. Not totally unexplainable and can just call it coincidence if you don't believe in sorcery. When I was in kindergarten or maybe first grade, we had a blackout at my school. And this kid goes, "Wait. I'll light a match," and proceeded to pretend to light an invisible match and the lights came back on. And we cheered for him. Then he said, "Oh, it's too hot." And he blew it out. Then the lights went back out. Wizardry. When I was about 10 years old I woke up and had no recollection of the day before. I told my little brother and he said he had the same problem. I however didn't believe him because he was 8 and thought it was funny where I was mildly concerned. I think he thought it was a game and we were playing some pretend game. This of course made my folks think it was a game and no one took me seriously. All I wanted was for someone to tell me something about yesterday to jog my memory, but no one did. Still have no idea what happened. That was over 30 years ago and I'm the only one who remembers not remembering. The same thing happened to me. In 5th grade I remember we were working on a project where we had to write a letter to our favorite author, so that night I was planning what I wanted to include in my letter before going to bed. When I woke up and went to school though, the letters were completed and it was like a whole day had passed without me noticing. I was so disappointed, and when I asked my friend what I wrote about they told me something similar to what I had been thinking about the day before. I don't know what happened, but I still think about that missing day.